This is the Forgotten Icons podcast hosted by myself, William Simone. Join me in a retro investigation as we unearth media's lost and forgotten representatives. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Forgotten Icons podcast. I'm William, and today we're going at it solo again, and we actually aren't going to cover a show this week. Just like last week, we will be covering a video game instead. And that video game will be Kingdom Hearts, which is a video game series I actually have a very personal connection with from my childhood. Since I was born in 2000, I didn't actually play Kingdom Hearts until around 2006, which was actually about 5 years after the original release. But I think that was a common experience in the early 2000s for video games. Media wasn't really as accessible, and most people followed the buzz of their household. I know other younger siblings can probably relate, but sometimes you kind of just copy the interests and actions of your older siblings, whether they want you to or not. In my youth, I readily followed the interests my family set forth for me. One of these interests was the love of classic Disney movies. We had a huge stack of Disney VHSs in my house from as long as I can remember, and of course, being kids, we took a quick interest in the cartoony VHS boxes with cute animals and dudes in loincloths, I guess, when talking about Tarzan. I have so many fond memories of tugging my blankets downstairs just to hang out with my siblings, whether we were intently watching The Lion King or watching the Goofy movie on repeat for the 10th time. It didn't matter, but Disney was bringing us together, and this is something it continued to do through Disney World and even Disney Channel. This was no exception when my dad brought home a game titled Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts released in 2002 for the PS2 and marked one of the weirdest mashups in gaming history. This idea was created when a couple of Square executives were discussing a way to enter the 3D platformer genre. They decided they needed Disney-level characters to rival Nintendo because nothing from a cartoony perspective in games could even come close to the recognition of Mario. Tetsuya Nomura, who's the long-term director of the series, snuck onto an elevator with a couple of Disney executives, and he asked if they had interest in making a Disney/Final Fantasy crossover. After this awkward elevator conversation, this pretty much led to the creation of Kingdom Hearts. In a lot of ways, this interaction is something that wouldn't exist in the modern day. I think it really only existed in a very much 2001 gaming territory. I don't think executives and publishers at the time were as picky about how they use their IP. I think nowadays you would see something like this happen. So I think that makes Kingdom Hearts and the mashup a little bit more special too. That's a product of its own time. At the time, in 2002, Kingdom Hearts was received very well, with IGN and several other outlets nominating it for 2002's Game of the Year. It rivaled games such as Grand Theft Auto Vice City and Super Mario Sunshine. Critics loved the fluid animations, orchestral music, and the difficult boss fights. The main gripe critics had with the game was to do with the camera being really bad, especially compared to things like Mario Sunshine, which in comparison worked a lot more fluidly and was easier to control. It didn't seem to matter because luckily for Kingdom Hearts, it ended up selling way more than Sunshine in 2002. Being the highest on the top grossing chart for 5 months in a row. Kingdom Hearts was a success at the time, both critically and commercially, but I think it had one other avenue of success. This quirky game was able to get several gaming babies from playing their little licensed Disney Game Boy Advance games like Aladdin and the Lion King platformers that existed at the time, to playing full-on RPGs, leading them into the Final Fantasy series as a whole. It struck a nice balance between these two by spoon-feeding just enough of the Final Fantasy into this crazy Disney adventure. And for this reason, Kingdom Hearts has developed a huge cult following of gamers that look back at Kingdom Hearts in just as much nostalgia as the material it uses. Are you curious what happened to some of television's forgotten pieces of media? How about The Biggest Loser, the popular 2000s weight loss show? It seemingly disappeared in 2016. On the Forgotten Icons podcast, we uncover the truth around these shows and their disappearances. So if you're a curious mind or enjoy reminiscing on TV shows from your childhood, tune into the Forgotten Icons podcast at www.spotify/theforgottenicons.com. Kingdom Hearts, as opposed to several of the previously mentioned licensed GBA games, was able to capture the classic Disney aesthetic with both its art style and world design. Now, if you go and look back at old Disney movies, it's pretty obvious that Kingdom Hearts isn't a one-to-one creation. Old Disney movies had this fluid motion to them, and they weren't particularly fully 3D. For this reason, Nomura's team had to take liberties in redesigning Disney's landmarks and characters. The art style they chose was timeless and cartoony enough that nothing ever felt out of place. I think that's a major reason we would never see a remake of Kingdom Hearts, because the art style still holds up today. This couples well with the fact that each Disney character was carefully recreated in a 3D model with a good amount of detail put into their designs. I think the Colosseum from Hercules exhibits this very well. Hades, along with the great voice acting that was actually done by the original voice actor from Hercules, has a character model that really captures the main features of the Hades characters in the film. The fire burns on his head, changing based on his feelings, and his facial expressions really help sell his arrogant demeanor. There's this one scene where Hades is standing next to Cloud, who is a character from Final Fantasy VII, in the Colosseum, and I think that really shows how great they merged Disney into their game. Cloud and Hades are standing next to each other, and they feel completely at home, while they're from completely different franchises, with varying art styles. Along with the art style, the game's world design helped bring the several kingdoms to life by including the perfect landmarks from each of the franchises. You could hop into the Cave of Wonders from Agrabah, you could swim around King Triton's castle, you could walk into Tarzan's tent, or jump from vines and hop on hippos, and you can see the iconic hill from The Nightmare Before Christmas, where the little kids in the bathtub with feet walk over it, if you know what I'm talking about. These landmarks really helped immerse the player in each kingdom, not only by letting us look at them, but a lot of times letting us interact or fight them. Along with using existing creations, another thing the game does to immerse the player in each specific kingdom is, rather than only using the same enemy types for each world, they create custom enemies that have varying attack patterns for a player to get used to. Every time I got to Deep Jungle when I was younger, my brain would just not comprehend the little monkey enemies, because they do this slide kick that's kind of unpredictable, and then they knock your character down, which is really annoying because you kind of lose autonomy and playability for about like 5 seconds. And I swear every time I would fall for it, and I would play the game a whole lot. Along with the monkeys, they have these like sword spinner guys in Agrabah, which is the place from Aladdin. They have the fish trooper guys in the Little Mermaid place, and they have gargoyle enemies in Halloween Town. The game changing up the enemy type per world made sure the Heartless fit into the world, while giving each one a more unique vibe. When it comes down to it, Disney made a lot of licensed games back in the day, and there were 2 reasons Kingdom Hearts stood out. As we just mentioned, Nomura and the team picked an art style that not only brought classic characters and landmarks to life in 3D, but also fully immersed the player in each Disney world by using it to stay true to their native designs. Secondly, while fully representing several Disney franchises, Kingdom Hearts was still able to form an identity of its own to fit into the Disney world. The Last of Us, Peacemaker, The White Lotus. These are just a few of the shows you'll find on HBO Max. Enjoy a growing library of addictive shows and blockbuster movies for as low as $9.99 a month. HBO Max acts as a hub for everything DC, HBO, Cartoon Network, Studio Ghibli, and much more. Go from following Ellie and Joel's adventures through post-apocalyptic Middle America to enjoying an old classic like Teen Titans or Scooby-Doo. Head over to HBOMax.com to start watching today. The first thing gaming fans know about Kingdom Hearts is how convoluted the story has become in its 20-ish year history, so quickly, I'll give you a basic rundown. In Kingdom Hearts 1, you play as Sora, a kid who lives in a place named Destiny Islands, along with his 2 best friends Riku and Kairi. Basically, some weird guy who actually turns out to be only 1/7 of the actual bad guys in the grand scheme of things, eliminates the barriers between worlds, so that's how Sora ends up traveling between different Disney worlds. Riku ends up being used by the evil guy, and Kairi turns out to be what the game calls a pure heart, so I guess the bad guy wants to use her heart to open a big door or something like that. I'm not here to defend this messy plot, it's convoluted, and let me tell you, it gets even worse as the series goes on. That being said, while fans love the stupid convolutedness of the story, it has never been the draw of the series. The real draw is the relationships between characters. Sora, compared to a lot of stoic, action-y game protagonists of the time, was a child that was merely motivated by the innocent drive to reconnect with his friends. I think that's where Sora as a character shines. He sees the best in people and possesses a childlike innocence even today with the release of Kingdom Hearts 3. In essence, it may be a little corny, but the first game was about friendship and its ability to persevere through hard times or through an inability to see each other. As Sora went through the Disney worlds, he connected with the likes of Donald Duck, Goofy, Ariel, Hercules, Jack Skellington, and while he may not always be with those individuals, their memories of each other remain permanent, and with those memories, their friendship is eternal. Like I said, it's corny and innocent, but at the same time, half of the series is Disney, so what do you expect? As time has passed, the Kingdom Hearts franchise has become infamous for its spin-off games, which I'm putting in air quotes that you can't see. The interesting thing about the franchise's spin-offs is that they are actually completely essential to the plot. And on top of that, they span across several different consoles that players might not have possessed, including the PS2, Game Boy, PSP, PS3, 3DS, DS, and with Kingdom Hearts 3, the current gen consoles, the Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X. This is all to say, a lot of people that played Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, which were both on the PS2, probably didn't end up following every detail of this story. Just so you have an example of some of these spin-off titles, I'll list off a couple. Kingdom Hearts 358 by 2 Days, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Final Mix 1.5 and 2.5, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage. Yeah, so that's all those games, and because these plot points are essential, the only thing separating these games from the numbered entries of 1, 2, and 3 is that they aren't as polished and they usually include some weird gimmicky gameplay. For instance, one of them is Card Game. As a fan, I see the convoluted plot as a double-edged sword. On one hand, I don't see how new fans would ever enter the series in the modern day and hope to understand what is going on. But also, as someone that has grown up with it, I kind of just find the whole story funny and laugh at it. Let me give you another example. Remember the Sora guy I was talking about? Well, in Kingdom Hearts 1, he actually unlocked his heart because he wanted to transfer it into Kairi, but when he did that, he separated himself into two entities, a Heartless and a Nobody, which is terminology I would explain, but it really doesn't matter. But on top of that, for whatever reason, Kairi's heart was already stored away inside of Sora, so her heart also created a Nobody, but not a Heartless because Heartless are born from darkness or something like that, and Kairi has no darkness because, as I mentioned, she is a pure heart. So actually, Sora is quickly turned back into a human and his Heartless disappears, but his Nobody remains, and you actually play as him to start Kingdom Hearts 2. But he doesn't look like Sora, but a blonde kid instead who is named Roxas, which as a name is just Sora rearranged with an X inside of it, which is how Nobodies get their names. And Roxas actually looks like a different character from the side game named Ventus, who turns out to be an old Keyblade wielder who at one point lost his heart, but it also was stored inside of Sora because he met him for like 5 seconds when he was 5 years old. So that's why Roxas looks like Ventus and not Sora. So yeah. And then Ventus's darkness was pulled from him and somehow created an independent being which actually looks like Sora instead and is named Vanitas, who is one of the 5 forms of Sora, I guess, and also one of the 7 forms of the big evil guy spanning all the way into the 3rd game. So I think you get the point. But this is not a good story. It is dumb, it couldn't exist in any medium but video games, and I think that is a large reason me and a large group of other gamers have this weird cult appreciation for it. We can see this stupid plot get dumber and dumber, but to us it's just funny and also kind of fun to piece together all of this information that ultimately is full of retcons and plot holes. As I said, this convolutedness gives Kingdom Hearts a bad reputation from outsiders, and in some ways, that's a shame, because while I admit it is stupid and a commitment to understand what is going on, it is full of great gameplay, detailed worlds, and satisfying character relationships that pay off tremendously if you stick through copious amounts of poorly named spin-offs. I don't mind if the series grows in the end because I enjoy it, and so do millions of other dedicated fans, including my sister, Isabella. She doesn't play a lot of games, and she definitely hasn't kept up with this dumb story, but when I rushed home with a copy of Kingdom Hearts 3 in 2019, she sat next to me on the couch and watched me play. It took me back to 2006 when we would sneak downstairs and for whatever reason, sit on the floor as we continued our adventure as Sora. Today, Isabella is married, has a kid, and lives over 5 hours away, so I don't really get to see her much, but just like the core theme of the original release, the memories we created playing this stupid game will always be there to connect us, and for that reason, I will always be grateful towards this series. And with that, thanks for watching, everyone. This has been episode 4 of the Forgotten Icons podcast. If you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you're not, I hope you somehow followed all the convoluted stuff I tried to run through. If not, at least you understand how stupid the plot really is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on episode 5. Thanks for listening to the Forgotten Icons podcast. If you have topic suggestions for us to dive into, head over to our website at forgottenicons.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, consider giving us a positive review on the streaming platform of your choice. For any updates, follow me on Instagram and Facebook at TheWilliamSimone.